Colonel, I'm trying to sneak around.
You can clap your stumps together.
I think everything should be.
I don't know, is it?
I don't know, is it? That was... See,
That's pretty loud.
I'm pretty loud.
Oh, it's pretty loud. That's about
Yeah.
where we want it.
There we go.
That's more like it.
There.
Ta-da!
More like it. I just bass boost every time I talk to here.
I still don't. So people who listen regularly probably know how jacked up the philosophical bumper is.
It's very jacked up.
I don't know what causes that, because when you listen to the raw file on just Windows Media Player, it sounds fine. But you put it into Audacity and it's just like,
You know, like,
yeah.
Huh.
So-
maybe it has something to do with your project frequency that you're recording in.
Maybe.
So you're like only recording in CD quality.
Maybe.
So if you up the project rate, maybe that would fix it.
I could try that, yeah. Because
And maybe the MP3 compression is
it's
also part of the problem.
yeah. Because, well, it sounds like that in the editor too, like when you're
Oh,
playing it
that's,
back. I've tried like declipping and lowering the volume.
did
but
it do
still
that
does
when
it.
you were using
Nope.
Audition?
Nope, it was just fine back then. I went back and listened to a couple episodes from before just to double check, and it's still a little weird. So apologies for the ear rape, but then that almost makes it more funny. So I will try to mitigate the eardrum destruction, or you can just hit skip forward. But how could you on one of our beautiful bumpers? Which is funny because all the rest of them are actually
They're very short and like
Yeah.
tame.
yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the one we will
Except for
release
the one
day.
someday.
Someday. Well, we're all together in the studio once more.
Coming at you audibly live.
At the time of this recording,
We are all live.
Yes.
It's a good chance we'll still be live when it goes up. It's just
Well,
right now is all I can guarantee.
when the
And
episode
even then,
goes up,
can we truly guarantee it?
well, when the episode goes up, that is a sure sign that at least I'm alive.
Yeah. Wouldn't
I
happen
mean,
otherwise.
I feel like I could.
You could.
I
yeah.
could put this thing
You could
together.
publish it posthumously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I couldn't because I don't know James's PC password.
Oh right, we'll have to mitigate that. That yeah. What was you guys were gonna do an episode when I was on vacation in Montana last year. That's
Yep.
right.
But then we didn't.
And I completely
But
neglected.
then we didn't.
Because I almost never turned my PC off, but that was like the one time it was locked out. But oh well, we made do.
Hell.
Made deer.
Dear. That's
Good
one.
old Mountain Dew.
That was one bit we forgot last week. Is the
Well, it's not our bit.
Zay
It's
Frank.
Zay Frank's
It's
bit.
not our bit.
imitation.
I mean, we do a lot of bits that are in fact other people's bits.
True.
It's
We're
a
sort
loving
of
homage.
like a bit cover band, as it were. And now for something completely different.
A man with a tape recorder up his nose.
But yeah, we're here recording together, and it's for once actually a pretty nice sunny day outside.
Yeah.
It was rather gloomy before, and it's going to be gloomy again later. But oh well, Holy Week is upon us. Basically, we're not quite there yet.
Yes. Well, we will be there by the time this is uploaded
Yep.
because we will.
But I've often thought about how
Mondays.
like the first half of Holy Week is like so anticlimactic, because you have Palm Sunday, which is great. You know, going over the whole like accounts depending on the year in the Gospel of the Passion, and then you go to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing. I mean, except for Chrism Mass.
The odd place that does a Tenebrae.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the Holy Week doesn't really begin till Thursday, after Palm Sunday. Anyway, I've always found that kind of fascinating. It's like, oh great, get all hyped up and wait 3 days.
Wait 3 days, huh?
Well, until the waiting 3 days.
Wait 3 days to wait 3 days.
Yep.
The pre 3-day wait, 3-day wait.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, I didn't know that. I think I was listening to Clerically Speaking. They were answering a question about this. Like, wait, how was it 3 days Jesus was in the tomb? I was like, well, I always understood as like including
Third day.
Yeah, third day, not
On
3
the
days.
third day,
Yeah.
he rose.
Not for 72 hours, but
Yes.
Day
Day
the
one
third day.
is when he died. Day
Look-
2 is Saturday when he's chilling.
In
Day
the
3 is resurrected.
And
Mhm.
it was on the third day.
Yep. So,
Day doesn't always mean an exact 24-hour period in biblical terms.
yep.
Or in any terms.
Yeah.
Right.
Day is understood more as like a block of time than a unit of time, I suppose. Like, I mean, obviously there's 24-hour periods, but like usually when somebody's referring to a day, they mean the daylight hours,
Yeah, usually it's
bookended by
maybe
the
a
night.
12-hour period.
Yeah. As we typically understand it. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Easter. I think overall, I think Lent's gone pretty well. I've been able to mostly maintain my disciplines. So the two I cared the most about anyway. So, but yeah, all the same, it'll be nice to be able to celebrate the glory of the resurrection
Indeed.
upcoming. It hasn't been that long since we recorded episode 100, so I'm trying to think of what we haven't talked about yet.
No, because
Why can't we just banter?
We can.
Let's just do that.
Okay.
We don't need to catch
We don't
up
need
on
to catch-
anything.
No,
we don't need to catch them up either. It's
we
our
are
life.
Caught up.
Yeah.
We're all caught.
It's my life.
It's now or never. I'm not gonna live forever. Can't read my.
And after all,
You're my wonderwall. How long were we doing that at that one
I don't know.
bonfire?
There's this one bonfire where we were.
I was
You had
fidgeting.
your guitar out, and so you were just doing whatever chords.
Yeah. Well, no, I was fidgeting. I was just like pounding on the
Oh right,
on the armrests
with the good old "We Will Rock You" rhythm.
and then we just kept
Today was gonna
Today.
be the day that we.
and we just started singing bits of other songs and kept inserting "You're My Wonderwall" in every in awkward places.
Because it was funny and we were having a good time.
Yes. Nobody like I don't know, 10 other people at the bonfire couldn't care less, but we were having a grand old time.
That happens pretty often when the three of us are together.
We're just off in our corner entertaining ourselves, and everyone else is completely oblivious, and then there'll be a bunch of ruckus, and it's like, what is going on over there?
Speaking of which, I sincerely hope that one of these weekends it stays nice enough for us to have a
Yes.
bonfire again.
Yes, we weren't able. I've said this several times on the podcast. Never mind. Yeah, we'll be able to use all that firewood.
Yeah.
I mean, it should still be good. We put a tarp over it for the winter, so
Covered by a sheet of tarpaulin.
yeah, tarpaulin. I didn't know that's what that was short for until I watched a British show where they said tarpaulin. And I was like, oh, of course that's what it is.
Of course, it's
That
short
makes
for
sense.
something.
Yeah. Tarp. I think if nobody's done it yet, we were watching, I guess, the last episode of Attack on Titan until a while.
Until a while.
Where they're like partying with the refugees or whatever. I think I'm gonna go ahead and make that where it's like they don't know I'm about to destroy the world. Like
that one guy off in the corner while everyone else is partying.
I need to
meme.
do that before somebody else does it.
Somebody
So,
probably has done it on some subreddit somewhere.
maybe, but I'm going to make it cool. In that I'm going to Google image search the meme format, Google image search Aaron, and maybe put a couple fezzes on the people in the foreground, and go from there.
Only the highest quality memes from you.
Of course. I make a meme about once a year originally.
Did you find that one meme you sent me for my birthday about the Pepe tending his garden of memes? Or did you make that? I can't remember.
No, I think I was deep. Was that a GIF? I think
Maybe.
there was a couple I did because a aggressively
consult
combed
the
the
archives.
GIFs. I aggressively comb GIFs, so I don't just do like the first 3 that pop up. I just like screw around with the search terms and find like the most esoteric ones I can find for Riley's birthday greetings. I know one year it was, well, I think every time it's been Pepe, but the one year it was, he was walking along and then there's just a bunch of rats drinking out of the flat earth beneath his feet or something to that effect. As Riley audibly pulls up the,
I don't even remember what year this was, so this might take a little bit.
it could be,
Yeah.
Insert Jeopardy music.
Dun, 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 dun. The copyright button.
Anyway.
It's funny. It gets pretty easy to keep track of stuff on one's Facebook profile when you stop using it like 2 years ago. Because like I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can find this on my profile. Yeah, I should be able to scroll for like 2 minutes and find something. It's bound to be there somewhere.
Sure.
Yeah.
June
But-
2020, July 2020. Here's 2020.
Hey,
Hey.
What a
I
time.
don't think it was 2020 that you posted on though.
yeah, because I don't think we were. No, I don't remember.
One more year to ponder the sheer weight of existence.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was 2020.
Oh yes, it was the dog typing.
Okay, back to 2019.
Yeah, dang. The 2019, the before times, before podcast.
1 year BC. Before
BCBB.
cast.
One
Before
year
cast.
British Petroleum. The audibly scrolling through Riley's profile.
This is content, people.
This is the best audio only content.
Now
we've
this
ever
is
produced.
podcasting.
Because it's our podcast and we can do what we want.
It's my podcast and I'll cry if I want to.
I guess Bryant and I, this started when John was still here, but just going through and rewatching pretty much all of Phineas and Ferb.
Yep, it was 2019.
Dang. Oh, there it is. What are those? Are those pangolins?
I have no idea. I don't think they're pangolins. They're too scaly, but like,
Well, no, pangolins are scaly.
yeah, but they're also not straight up reptiles,
Oh,
which these are.
so some sort, maybe like a Komodo dragon or something. Regardless, I was like, this is brilliant.
I don't know what it is, but it's brilliant.
That's part of what makes it brilliant.
Exactly.
It's like, what was the caption? You are more than the sum of your fears. That took me like a solid like 10 minutes to find that one, scrolling through the GIF keyboard on Facebook.
Why use the GIF keyboard on Facebook?
That's where you find the gifts.
Yeah,
I
that's
suppose.
because when you try to link from outside Facebook, it just shows the link and it's lame, or like a freeze frame or something. I haven't figured out how to get it to work, so I just use the built-in one. But yeah, it's good audible content. If email us palladiumpapist@gmail.com
For complaints.
for complaints about audibly looking at memes on
Or-
Riley's Facebook from 3 years ago.
Or if you want to email us an esoteric gift to review on the podcast.
That could be a new segment if we get enough
If
submissions.
we get enough submissions for that, I'd happily do it.
That would be-
Esoteric meme review. I'll make a bumper. I'm saying it right here. I'll make a bumper and everything if people submit enough memes.
Audible memes.
Yeah. So audible meme review.
And we just describe in, this Pepe is dancing on a image of the flat earth that is rotating.
We have to read it. We have to track down the voice actor for all the Disney voice assisted thing for blind people and have her describe the memes, or just do it ourselves. That would work too.
Speaking of doing it ourselves,
We're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
and I'm Riley.
Speaking of esoteric, we're what are we talking about today?
We're going to be doing a super serial on Neon Genesis Evangelion.
One day, 3 lads from North Dakota were bitten by a radioactive television, and with their powers combined, they are super serial!
And I'm going to turn around because I don't like this. You can pause the recording.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can because we don't.
Unless we want
We
even
have
better
the
audible
technology.
content. Which, I mean, I'm going to move this mic stand and it's going to like blow people's ears up. So we
we'll
should probably
pause right
stop
here.
it.
Okay.
Man,
This is much better.
I-
I can see Nathan now.
Hello,
Hey.
Riley. I can see you.
You could see me before. You just
I
couldn't
could.
see my face.
I wish
saw
I
the back
had
of my head.
I wish I had that, or every time like in the Crunch when they do that little music bit when they like cut to something in the podcast.
Everybody crunch on that.
Well, it was like like it's like, man, I just start grooving to that, and I was like, oh wait, yeah, this is a podcast. I wish I had that bumper. I could probably find it, but anyway, yeah, Super Serial, ladies and gentlemen.
Super Serial.
Indeed.
Yeah,
We're
So
this
talking
what
about
is this show?
Neon.
the show's quite a weird show.
When you look at it on IMDb, it's spelled Evangelion, which I thought was mildly racist, but yeah.
You see, Japanese doesn't really have a distinction between those sounds.
I suppose,
So
yeah.
It's like they're sort of interchangeable,
Mm,
but it's also just weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell what it's supposed to be referring
Yep.
to, and that's Evangelion,
You can
which is a
approximate.
Greek word which has a lambda in it. So like, yeah.
So I suppose this is one of the more famous anime series from like the mid-late 90s.
It's the right smack dab in the middle.
Oh, okay.
95.
Dang. All right. All I've seen of this is the first couple of episodes and the 2 movies at the end of the series with John, and it
Which
was
we will not be covering
because they are weird, horny teenager stuff.
Which, in fairness, is the show too. But,
Oh, right, but not as explicitly.
but certainly not as explicitly, and not approaching the level of weirdness that the movies gets to.
Yeah,
And the movies came out early to mid 2000s, right?
Late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah.
97, I think, was the first. Was when End of Evangelion was released.
So imagine they melded like everything about Nirvana with the mind of a teenage Japanese boy, and you have the aesthetic of the movies.
That's kind of it. That's a fairly accurate statement.
But anyway, disregarding the movies for now, how does this show begin?
So, we are following the adventures, if one can call them that, of one Shinji Ikari, who is a 14-year-old boy who is very depressed.
And boy, is he a 14-year-old boy.
Boy, is he a 14-year-old boy. It's everything. Just think about every stereotype of 14-year-old boy that is depressed that you can think of, and he fits the bill.
Mm-hmm. Except for he
Wake
wears
me
white button
up.
up, like.
Wake me up inside.
Except for he doesn't wear black.
He wears a white t-shirt and jeans
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So, he is just a kid. He's vibing in Tokyo 3, the post-apocalyptic future fortress city after some calamity that we don't really know much about that basically caused all of humanity to go into hiding. So the basic threat against humanity is these creatures called angels, which are these alien-looking things that show up and just want to destroy. They want to break things. They want to kill. They want to beat things up.
And Japan being Japan, they're like, we must build Gundams to fight
We
them.
must build giant robot to get rid of.
That is how you fight aliens, with giant mech suits.
That is correct.
This is not Pacific
This
Rim.
is the way.
It is not Pacific Rim, because we don't really yet know where the angels come from, and certainly not in the Mariana Trench. So, but yes. So Shinji sort of gets co-opted into piloting one of the Ava units, as they're called, because his dad is a hot shot on the program. He's kind of the guy who runs the operations of the secret government organization known as NERV. And so yeah, his dad wants him to pilot.
So he's a nerve agent, one might say.
He's a nerve agent.
Continue.
Yeah.
His dad wants him to pilot a machine. Him being an edgy, rebellious teenager and hating his dad wants nothing to do with that. In fairness, he has good reason to hate his dad, but we'll get into that. He doesn't want to because he's like, no, screw you, Dad. I'm not going to pilot your stupid robot. He's like, okay, I'll get this girl to do it for me because she got mortally wounded in the last Ava fight with an angel, but we're going to send her out again because no one else will. He's like, girl, I like girl. I guess I'll do it. To spare girl. So he goes and fights Robot and is very bad at it, but he's apparently good enough to get the job done. So he succeeds in beating up his first angel.
Yay.
Yay. And it blows up in cruciform pattern because Christian symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
Nominal Christian symbolism.
But Christian symbolism nonetheless. We'll get into that. So the thrust of the narrative arc is there's more robots, more Ava pilots, more 14-year-olds thrown into the mix, and more angels that continuously come. And so Shinji fights them off and explores new things about himself and new facets of his life that he doesn't want to deal with as it goes on. And so in comes Asuka, who's a fiery red-headed 14-year-old, half German, half Japanese prodigy of Ava piloting.
Who inexplicably has spawned a whole trove of Asuka as a Christian memes, like talking to Joe Rogan and such. But
yeah, there's a whole meme page devoted to it. It's funny. Asuka's
this is where
the
that
least
comes
Christian character in this show, but
this is where that comes from.
But she's also relatable. So yeah, she's like the best Ava pilot by a long shot. You know, she's like
Kind of the
great
opposite
at
of
everything.
Shinji.
Yeah, sort of set up as a foil to Shinji. She's like, headstrong, knows what she wants, is willing, has the ambition to go get it. But that has its downsides because when she fails in battle, she doesn't succeed and has to rely on Shinji to come and fix everything at the end of the day. She's like, what has my life come to?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm a southern man all of a sudden. But
Manically
that's what
depressed.
failure
if
does-
I ain't the
does to you.
best Ava pilot, I don't know what my point in life is.
Manically depressed and obsessed with women sounds like Southern life to me.
Apologies to any southern people.
We
Sorry,
love you.
Felix.
I related to a bunch of them. It's fine.
I know you're listening. But anyway. So he Asuka kind of has a breakdown and fails to. She just doesn't show up to pilot the Avas anymore. And so they bring in another kid who's weird and just kind of nobody quite gets him, but he's a warm body, so he's useful to pilot the robots to fight the angels. But psych, he's an angel in disguise.
What?
Oh,
So
no.
Shinji has a big old battle with him, and he's not very important beyond that. He just kind of
Kinda
gotcha.
What?
What the tweets?
And now here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
This is where the weird esoteric stuff starts happening. So, in another sort of plot thread, Shinji's supervisor / surrogate mom, why am I blanking on her name?
Purple
Misato,
hair.
purple
Oh,
hair
yeah.
lady. Miss Misato is investigating the inner workings of NERV because she kind of has some suspicions and
Where does all this wild technology comes from? Also, blue hair girl.
blue hair girl. Where did she come from? Why does she have blue hair?
Why does she not have any sort of human feeling whatsoever?
Why does she look exactly like Shinji's mom?
Why does she?
Why?
Why?
does?
Why?
Questions we may or may not find the answers to. So
What is
she's,
it exactly she has going on, one might say? Looking like Shinji's mom.
Uh-huh.
Shinji's mom is absorbed into a robot.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, that's a thing. So in the course of the experiments, it's heavily implied that Shinji's mom was also working on the project, and the thing with the Avas is that you sort of like mentally fuse with them, kind of, sort of, because
Sure.
they're sort of kind of alive, thinking things in addition to being robots.
Naturally,
So
that follows.
she kind of got absorbed into Shinji's Ava.
Oh, so he's been riding in his mom's robot.
He's been riding in his mom's robot,
Neat.
or in his robot mom,
Something
however
like
you would
that.
like to see that.
Huh.
And let's see what else is going on. Oh yeah, Rei is heavily implied to be a clone of Shinji's mom,
Uh-huh.
and Gendo, Shinji's dad, is much more caring and affectionate towards Rei than he is his own son.
Naturally.
Naturally, being that it's highly probable Rei is some sort of genetic modification of his mom.
Mm-hmm. And the dad was involved in the creation of her?
More than likely.
More than likely. Creepy.
Heavily implied.
Heavily implied. There's not a lot of here's exactly what happened in this
Sure.
thing. They leave a lot of room for interpretation. But there's a lot of clear evidence that makes that conclusion feasible.
Neat.
And so Misato discovers that Gendo has been working on this thing called the Human Instrumentality Project.
Mhm.
And
I doubt he's been teaching people piano.
no, he's turning the people into instruments, not giving them instruments to use.
Not musical
living
instruments.
pianos.
Living pianos.
Instruments
So
as in tools.
they've got this primordial angel they've dubbed Adam,
Naturally. That's what you call that.
Mhm.
chained up in the basement, and are that's a probable reason why the angels continue to assault their base,
Yeah, that makes
given
sense.
that they've got what is assumed to be one of their progenitors locked up down there. And they're using Adam for something related to the Human Instrumentality Project.
Like extracting genetic materials from him to modify humans.
Unclear.
Like so that you can give them new powers like shooting bees.
Unclear.
This is a BioShock.
It is a
Yes.
Bioshock.
Yes.
Possible. Who knows?
Who knows? Okay.
Minus a lot less drugs.
What is clear is that they're kind of turning people into things. They're just
Unseemly
this
activities.
is lots of philosophy allegory that we'll get into
Mm-hmm.
in a bit, at least in my opinion. And Shinji is kind of victim number one of the Human Instrumentality Project. And so he kind of gets sucked into this thing and has all these weird, crazy, esoteric flashbacks and confronts his own self-loathing and hatred, and through the course of it realizes that he must embrace human connection and that hating himself is unproductive and will never lead him to happiness, which he's considered, he's built something of a friendship with people at his school and some of the other Ava pilots, and he's starting to believe that life could be meaningful and it's possible to be happy. And so he rejects human instrumentality and embraces community and friendship.
Is that where and then when he accomplishes that, there's the congratulations.
There's the congratulations bit at the end.
Ah.
This is all my interpretation. It's like different people have different takes on what all that means.
Because it's fairly ambiguous.
It's incredibly ambiguous. And
Which is equal parts fascinating and frustrating.
So yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of just have to see.
Sure.
And would not recommend for the childs. It's not for that.
Absolutely.
But
Shinji does teenage boy things.
Shinji's a teenage boy and has visions pertaining to things that teenage boys think about.
Yeah.
And it's add Japanese to that mix, and it's a ride.
Just that sensibility, the different sensibilities to it. Yeah.
But it's very intriguing and thought-provoking. And it really does... 90% of the show is Shinji fights in robot against Angel. And then the last several episodes are just acid trip, what is the meaning of life kind of reflective thing.
Like at one point during the movies, it just cuts to real footage for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, they
Just
show
random
people
B-roll.
sitting in a theater watching.
Facing towards the camera.
Yeah.
And they just start awkwardly clapping.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And then just a bunch of B-roll of Japan for some reason. And I think one theory I read was that it was the director like teasing fans for giving the first movie such a bad rap. So he's like, all right, you want to see something cool? Here's you. This is what you look like to me. Or something like that. It's
Take a moment to
wild.
reflect on yourself, metaphorically, literally.
Sometimes I wonder if interviewing that director is a little bit like reading a Bots of New York post.
Yeah. Anno's kind of a funky dude.
Well, I guess what are some cool things in this show? What are some redeeming qualities, one might say?
Well, I think a lot of the show is redeeming qualities, but there's
artistic.
a few.
It's like we'll get into beauty.
We'll get into that. I think the character work is one of the most easily accessible, interesting points.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there are a lot of characters in this show, and the going theory is that they all represent different aspects of Anno's personality. Shinji is kind of the most representative of him at that age, kind of his
Immaturity and
depressed teenage boyness. Asuka represents his creative ambition and talent, sort of the go-getter, but also
when she doesn't go get, she
when
feels
doesn't
extremely
get,
crushed.
he is unable to handle that healthily. Rei is kind of his placid, submissive, go along with whatever the world is shoving down your throat kind of tendency, and yada yada yada. There's plenty of other characters, but those are like the main couple of characters in the show that have direct analogs to him. The other characters are kind of interesting in their own right, and are all kind of scarred by their families and things that have happened to them as a result of the angels, which are in fact the fault of their fathers, more or less.
are the angels ever really explained, or are they just kind of there?
One of the movies or one of the spin-off things talks about their origins, but they are kind of meant to be this ambiguous threat, which is not in itself all that important.
Yeah.
The important thing is that they're brought on, that their attacks are kind of this inherited sins of the father kind of a thing.
Right.
Where
Hence Adam.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is sort of crucified in a really weird way.
And they have the spear of Longinus,
Yeah.
because more Christian symbolism and imagery. And it's like a crazy super weapon. I don't know exactly, but it's there.
It's there.
It's there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So would talking about those symbolisms lead into the truth part, or is it like
No, it wouldn't, because they don't have anything behind them.
So it's just there for the sake of, hey, look, we're making a reference.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Outstanding reference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, people have tried to find connections with the things, but by and large, there's not a lot there.
It's like how in Halo things are called Halos, and his name is John 117, but there's like no Christian theming beyond that.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of more or less empty symbolism.
Which is
meant to create sort of a mysterious aura, I suppose.
Yeah, for an Eastern audience, an Oriental audience, these aren't necessarily like cultural background things they're super familiar with. Like, sure, the Christianity exists in Japan, but it was actively suppressed for most of Japan's history.
Yeah. There was a long period where I believe Francis Xavier started a bunch of St. Francis Xavier started a bunch of Catholic communities in Japan, and then it was persecuted for like 200-300 years after that, until the West basically forced Japan to open up and priests were allowed to return.
and even well into the mid 20th century. And it wasn't really until post-World War II when everyone chilled down a bit because the whole world just exploded and that wasn't a fun time.
No.
That they realized maybe we should be chill.
So I guess it's like similar to how Western culture, like Hollywood movies, will include some East Asian elements to be mystical.
Ooh, this is spooky and different.
Orange filter on everything foreign.
You are
Sepia
unfamiliar.
tone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's there for.
Case in point, Kansas in Wizard of Oz. Sepia tone because it's foreign and strange.
I think the point of it being different conversation, but the point of it being sepia tone is because it's boring and average.
Right.
Because that was like the first major like film in color, and so having Oz be weird and colorful was the thing that was like, oh, this is an escapism. Whereas the boring expected was anyway. That's a different topic.
Different topic. So, what other cool things are there?
The pacing is interesting.
It is very.
I have seen none of the show aside from the theme song, which we'll get to in the beauty bit, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot of like. There's a lot of like quiet moments from what I've seen of it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Punctuated by action, but no music. Very little music, it seems like. Beyond the theme song.
There are occasionally musical numbers. Like
But it's kind of like a Studio Ghibli film in that you'll just go for a long stretch where it's just silence.
dead silence.
Taking the atmosphere.
There is a lot of cicadas. That's the one perennial sound bit that gets used.
Did one of them just get stuck in the recording studio?
No,
They
it's
just
it's
let 'em go ham?
Japan in August. That's the setting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, cicadas are a thing, and they go or whatever.
Very loud and delirious.
And
It
it
inserts
made
cicada
John
sound.
angry when he was watching it, and I'm like, it's supposed to. It's supposed to be grating.
He rather hates cicadas.
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah,
There's
they're
nothing. There's no good in them.
Cicadas? More like succadas, am I right? Up top.
Got him.
Got him.
But yeah, that's the cool sound bit that they use to. Cicadas are used frequently in that sort of thing to be like symbolize the just like the time dragging on and just everything being kind of samey feeling and life doesn't feel like it's going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
like when you're 14, for example.
Like when you're 14 or you're
And driving your mom bot to fight angels because your dad kidnapped their dad.
And also killed your mom. Sort
Yeah.
of.
and also if you were a mad scientist sending people messages through the microwave, that would be another time where life kind of feels all the same.
How are all these burritos cooked? They haven't been opened
Oh,
yet.
why did the banana turn to goop?
Also, is there a reason they exclusively pick early teenagers to drive these things, aside from the
There's-
demographic of the show?
I think there's a throwaway reason that
They're the only people small enough to fit in the big
No,
robot?
it's not a
Healing
size
quickly,
thing.
or-
It's about their mental disposition.
Sure, being open.
angsty.
And sort of in flux at that stage of life. Your brain hasn't quite
very
settled down yet.
malleable.
fueled by angst. But yeah, I think it is something to do with the flexibility and the very in-process identity.
So, same reason children are conscripted into the army in Ender's Game, basically. That's a different story for a different day, but
Different story for a different podcast.
Yep.
so,
Less
yeah.
depression, more stoic main character.
So yeah,
Should we get into some transcendentals
Do
then?
we get into
We
them
can get
now?
into some transcendentals.
So what truths can we find in Evangelion?
You
Neon
can
Genesis
find a lot of.
Evangelion.
Well,
got a long title.
Ava is the kind of the short name you throw out.
Oh, okay.
It's a long title. No one likes to say all that in one go all the time.
NGA.
NGE.
NGE.
Right. So,
So,
Truths.
truths.
Truth.
Depression is a thing.
Yes.
And it affects people in a very real way. And
Often debilitating ways.
often debilitating ways. And teenagers are especially susceptible to it.
Just due to the nature of the changes going
That's
on.
just how it be sometimes. Especially when your dad's a jerk and hates you and loves the clone of your mom more than you. That can be a demoralizing thing too.
Yeah. Speaking from experience, or no?
No.
Why would you ask? No.
Also, vague existential threat on top of it all.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not even really a vague existential threat. It's a very real and in-your-face existential threat.
About
Which
very
represents
little understood, I suppose.
a vague existential threat
Yeah.
in the real world analog.
Yep.
And what would that real world analog?
Well, that's the symbolism behind the angels is a vague existential threat.
Okay.
Because the show was never about fighting robots. If you thought it was,
No.
you have fooled yourself.
Mm-hmm. Because I guess I mean vague existential threat in the sense that like the angels and their origin are never like fully explained.
In this iteration of the show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like that sort of adds like the lack of understanding what exactly you're being threatened by only increases the anxiety that it induces, I suppose.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's why you don't see a horror movie monster until the last act.
Right. And also learning that is from from Nerve's perspective, it's somewhat self-inflicted in that they have one of their boys all jacked up in the basement
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
or something.
And it's
It's a giant room. It's a whole thing.
their sort of reckless pursuit of technological advancement and immanentizing the eschaton is brought upon them.
Which is what
Destruction.
happens in the two movies. Is basically everybody dies except for Shinji and Asuka, and it's wild, chaotic stuff happens. The movie makes sense for about the first half, and then after that, it's just like, what is even happening?
This was the other cool thing that I wanted to talk about but couldn't remember, but it fits well into the truth bit. So being that this is kind of peak postmodern art, it lends a certain interpretation of Nietzsche, which is contrary to what most people attribute to him. He's not a nihilist at all, and in fact, he's very anti-nihilism, and he's mostly responding to Hegel, not so much Hegel's work itself, which has its problems, but sort of the outcome of what Hegel has done. So basically, the long story short, Hegel has this philosophy of history in which there is a necessary movement of history toward the end of perfect freedom. And that's very vague and wishy-washy in some cases, but the gist is that the world is moving somewhere, and only certain heroic figures are like genuine agents of that movement of freedom. And so only a few people are privileged enough to participate in real freedom, and everyone else is an instrument.
Aha.
And that's where this human instrumentality thing comes into play.
Where you have one person moving all the instruments, one person behind the whole thing doing stuff.
Right. And so some people interpret the human instrumentality project as like sort of collectivism versus individualism, and Shinji's rejection of it means him embracing individuality. But the way I interpret it is more like
Embracing
we're
community.
rejecting instrumentality. It seems obvious, but it's the most logical thing given the philosophy behind the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I don't want to be a pawn in the workings of history. I want to live my life however I see fit. I don't want to be
In relationship with the people around you.
swept up into this
Grand
tide
narrative.
of heroic movement. I want to be my own person and live my life around the people I know. And to a certain extent, it's embracing individuality, but it's also not in the way of
But it's not.
I am me and I am the only thing that matters.
Like a lot of anime, you have your protagonist who's the most important thing to ever happen, and then they go and save the day. And this one, he's like, how about I just be me?
How about? Yeah. I don't want to drive my mom mobile. I want to live my 14-year-old boy life.
And all the, and even that's not perfect. Like, you still have to deal with
yeah.
all the messiness and chaos of.
But trying to be an isolated individual, to the exclusion of everything else, is not a tenable way to achieve that. You'll
Right.
never be happy with that way.
It's
No.
kind of what he wanted at the beginning of the series.
Yeah, it's exactly what he wanted. He's like, leave me alone. I just want to exist and spend all my days doing nothing and just wasting away. That's exactly what he wanted. But he came to realize that living that way is worse than dealing with the feelings that are coming up as a result of his being 14.
Any other truths from the show?
There's lots of other stuff, but it mostly involves side characters that we haven't talked about.
Sure.
It kind of boils down to family relationships are important, and when they're done wrong, they are very damaging.
It's like they can be the most when they're done well and when they're healthy, they're the most uplifting, beautiful thing in your life.
And the
When
longest
they
speech on
aren't, they're the
friendship
most
you've ever heard.
destructive and awful thing in your life.
And there are no good familial relationships in this show.
Uh-huh.
They are all devastatingly bad, and basically every character flaw every character in this show has is more or less a result of their parents.
Incredibly dysfunctional.
So there's a lot of inheriting dysfunction from your parents.
There is a lot of that.
Which is, obviously, the most obvious.
Shinji and his dad.
He's the most clear example of that.
Also, caretaker lady is kind of
Misato and
weird.
her dad. Blonde lady and her mom. All the characters have parental issues.
How many of them actually managed to
Resolve that.
or
None.
move on from that? None of them do.
Shinji, maybe.
Shinji, depending on your
He's
interpretation
getting
of the
there.
ending.
Depending on,
Okay.
Shinji, maybe. He's at least starting. I mean, by no means do you think he's dealt with every emotion he has regarding his dad in
And
one
I mean,
fell
whoever
swoop.
Which is realistic, because
who does that?
that's real life.
you can
Nobody-
have breakthroughs, but then you're not going to just completely overcome that in one fell swoop.
There we go. Depression cured. That's not how it works.
No. Da-ba-da-da-ba-da-dum.
So yeah.
Goodness.
We good?
Is there goodness?
Yeah, there's goodness.
Okay.
It's few and far between, but it's there.
Sparse.
Pen is very good.
Oh yeah.
Love penguins.
I love penguins. They're so aerodynamically beautiful. Yeah, Pen is a good penguin. Misato's pet penguin. Voiced by Jeremy Lee, best voice actress out there.
Lovely.
So,
Indeed.
So it's a good
in the new Netflix dub, which
Ah,
there's a whole story with that.
Oh really?
Yeah, they lost the rights to the original audio for the Netflix release.
like you do.
So they went and made a whole new dub.
Wow.
I see.
So not all of the original music, but a lot of the original music is not there.
Weird.
Including the opening, or is the opening?
The opening's there.
Okay, good.
You gotta have the opening.
Because, I mean,
'Cause-
from a voiceover standpoint, the audio,
And it was all the English dub, or was it
The English dub.
Okay.
yes.
strange.
Strange.
Any sort of,
For all of her faults, Misato is pretty good. She cares about Shinji. I mean, she's 19, so she's not well equipped to be a parent
yeah.
by any means.
Uh-huh.
but is parenting Shinji and later Asuka as well. So it's like
At the very
handling
least,
two kids
mentoring.
when you're still a kid yourself is not an easy thing to do. But she's fun and laid back and probably drinks too much beer, but
Yeah.
is, you know,
Because 19's above the legal drinking age in that
in
country.
post-apocalypse. You stop caring at that point.
Yep. Everybody's jacked up. What's alcohol going to do to change that, you know?
Yeah. There's some
Not
moments
condoning
where
that, obviously.
Shinji's made some friends at school that used to bully him. He's like, found his way into some genuinely good relationships and draws strength and support from those guys at school.
So it's not all gloom.
It's not all gloom. There's a lot of gloom, but there's, moments of brightness.
I imagine particularly as the series moves on and the characters develop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then just imagine a cat like knocks over an entire china cabinet, and that's the ending.
And
Good,
knocks over an entire IKEA's worth of china cabinets.
and like a whole Sherwin-Williams paint store and broken glass. Yeah, it's
It's a whole lot.
yeah,
It's a whole lot.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like
You can honestly get away with watching just like the last 5 episodes of the show.
for a lot of people, there's like 2 endings to it, right? Because you have like the end of the show, and then technically the movies.
Well, there's a lot more than 2 endings.
Oh boy.
Uh-huh.
So it's a wild thing. Anyway,
There's a lot. It's, as I say, it's
Beauty.
a whole lot.
the art.
Cruel Angel's Thesis is one of the coolest anime openings ever.
Yep.
It's
Particularly when you
It's been
put it
memed to
over
death.
King of the Hill.
there are a ton of good Cruel's Angel's Thesis
Edits like
edits. Like the Cory in the House one is also great. Yeah, it's a fantastic opening, animation and music.
And there was that one Aaron Fonseca liked where it was like the Byzantine Empire for some reason.
Yeah,
But anyway, yeah, the animation is pretty good.
For the
for
production
mid-nineties?
constraints that it dealt with, it's quite good.
From what I've seen, yeah, it seems like higher end of the mid '90s stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still falls into a lot of like moments of silence with like random like scrolling still images here and there, people staring at each other, but you know,
That can be used well.
Yeah.
To punctuate a story moment or
sound design and yeah.
The character designs are very unique, very 90s.
yeah,
The kind of really wide set eyes and
pointy noses.
pointy noses.
But
and-
small noses.
yes, it's very unique. It's its own thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is always good.
Yeah.
You don't like samey stuff.
I like it to be shaken up a bit. Is it a different studio from the people who did Cowboy Bebop in terms of animation?
Yes,
Okay.
it was Studio Gainax that did
Oh, okay.
Evangelion. I don't actually know off the top of my head who did Cowboy Bebop.
But like they're definitely of the same era in terms of like
yeah, certainly.
I think
Aesthetic.
Bebop was late '80s, right?
no.
Was it early '90s?
I thought it was early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Audibly looking up.
Mm-hmm.
Audibly looking up.
Quality content, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah,
Indeed.
Double Helix credits for some reason, that type of thing.
They
Studio
use several...
Sunrise.
Huh?
Studio Sunrise,
Sunrise. Oh, really?
according to Wikipedia.
Interesting. I didn't know
That's
that.
who does Cowboy
Right,
Bebop. And,
right.
That'd be like that's like the Japanese equivalent of Studio Bald Eagle or something. Like sunrise being a national symbol. Anyway,
Anyway,
Unity.
the music... I'm not done with
Oh,
it.
You're never
right.
done
Let's
with
go
Beauty.
there.
The music, when it's not frequent, but when it is used to great effect.
And very impactful.
Whenever Asuka fights, there's always like Bach playing in the background because she's German.
Sure, sure.
So it's like, and it is one of the first things that I've ever seen, the earliest things that like did the music timing to the action thing.
Oh, sure.
There's like those, like climactic cymbal clashes in the end of a concerto or something, and there's like, robots
Punching
ramming
each other.
together, and so it's like, it makes really good use of the music that it has.
I think we don't get enough of like music that
synchronizes
is
with the action.
Yeah, not really anymore. There was some of that in like Baby Driver and
Well,
like a lot
that
of
was like
old-
the hallmark of like the
There
old
was another
Looney Tunes cartoons and stuff.
John Wick did a fair amount of that as well.
I was asleep for half of those movies. So
We'll have to
I
rewatch them
forgot.
when you're awake.
We will.
Hey, you're finally awake. Come watch John Wick. Anyway, anything else with on the beauty front?
I think that's all I had for the time being.
All right. Unity. What's the unifying? Yeah, what brings everything together?
Angst.
Yeah, actually though.
Being 14. I'm 14 and this is deep.
I'm 14 and this is deep.
As unified as things can be it's because like
With
Riley said, it's a very postmodern sensibility that went into making this. It's like very artsy in like the modern art kind of way at times. Avant-garde, yeah.
Avant-gallion.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. The good news is that you won't have to work to find a gun.
Don't have to edit one in, although you could anyway.
Yeah, there's multiple moments you could work with. All right, are we all set then?
I think we're all set.
All set.
Cool beans. Well, thanks for listening to the Palladium Papists. You can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, and leave us a rating to let us know what you think of the show. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Papists. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, or suggestions for future episodes,
Or kind of cursed gifts.
yeah, definitely that if you want a new segment. Email us at
Evangelion news.
email us at palladiumpapists@gmail.com, and we will talk to you again. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.